first episode of playing just talk about the game, so I'm going to do something a little different this time. And fan of all kinds of pro wrestling. I'm actually in the pro wrestling business, which is where I live. So I like to talk about all things wrestling, and I don't really have that many friends that are big on pro wrestling, WWE and all that whatnot. So I figured that I just talk to you people on YouTube about it and wants to watch someone play NHL 17 while they talk about pro wrestling. So with that being said, we're going to play our second game here in Fantasy Warfare, the San Jose Pirates taking on the New York Dragons, and we're going to talk about pro wrestling. Now this past Sunday was Elimination Chamber, as fix this real quick. We actually want to simulate the first period of this game. So this past Sunday was Elimination Chamber. No, we don't want to do that either. So this past Sunday was Elimination Chamber in Phoenix, Arizona, and I had the privilege of being able to go to that pay-per-view. Went with a friend of mine, and it was a pretty good show overall. So we're going to talk about it. First of all, in the pre-show, we had Mojo Rawley of the Hype Bros, formerly with Zack Ryder, taking on Kurt Hawkins. You know, Kurt Hawkins, obviously former tag team partner with Zack Ryder from, about 2008, 2009. They were actually paired together with Edge around that time as Edge heads, big fans of Edge and whatnot, and ended up being more of his lackeys, for lack of a better term. But yeah, Mojo Rawley picked up a victory over Kurt Hawkins. Kurt Hawkins brought back to the WWE not too long ago to be, more jobbers, without a lack of a better word for it. But it's nice to see Kurt Hawkins back in the WWE, trying a little spinneroo there. But yep, Kurt Hawkins picks up a victory over him, and Mojo Rawley, as goofy as it may seem, he's gonna end up being pretty big in the WWE just because of how well he gets over with kids and whatnot. He's always energetic, always dancing around the ring and whatnot. Oh, turnover there. But yeah, Mojo Rawley, he's gonna be pretty good in the WWE. Gonna do well for himself, and I can see them getting high on him. And Zack Ryder just injured himself pretty badly, which is ironic because they had just won a Battle Royal on an episode of SmackDown to be #1 contenders for the tag titles, and it was probably not going to go anywhere. But it was always going to be a nice little pay-per-view match for them. But Zack Ryder getting injured, I don't know the actual severity of the injury, but yeah, Zack Ryder was left injured, and he's going to be out for some time now. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see what they do now with Mojo Rawley, considering Zack Ryder is being injured. Something a little minor, but that I definitely noticed is that in his theme song, it doesn't make any mention of the Hype Bros. Like it's just the instrumentals of the song now. So that's going to be interesting. Definitely going to see if they're going to try to push Mojo in a singles role in some capacity, picking up a win against Mojo Rawley. And so as we move on to the main show, as we move on to the main show, the first match taking on Mickie James. Becky Lynch, obviously former SmackDown Women's Champion, and Mickie James, former WWE Women's Champion. And almost let in the goal there, but almost. I'm glad that Mickie James is back. She came back at NXT TakeOver Toronto, and she had a pretty good match with Asuka, the NXT Women's Champion right now. And it's good to see her back in the WWE. She had her time over at TNA. Actually, currently married to former TNA Heavyweight Champion Magnus. But it's nice to see Mickie James back. And they put on a good little match, and it only went about 8 minutes or so, but Becky Lynch ended up taking the win. Not too surprised there. You would have thought that they would have wanted to give Mickie James a win there, but Becky Lynch ended up coming out on top. So yeah, it was a good match. It was just a roll-up, so not burying Mickie James completely in that regard, but it was a good match to start out the pay-per-view outright. Nope, and I'm gonna let in a goal there. But anyway, so the second match was Kalisto and Apollo Crews taking on Dolph Ziggler in a handicap match, and this was the only part of the pay-per-view that I didn't like all that much. Dolph Ziggler pretty much turned heel on an episode of SmackDown, where he destroyed Kalisto and then went backstage and destroyed Apollo Crews. And you know, he's been showing a bit more of an attitude. He did a segment with Jerry Lawler where he super kicked him in the chest, you know, talking about his heart attack from a couple years back, trying to claim the heart attack, and was saying, I'm glad it happened and whatnot. So they're definitely trying to get, you know, Ziggler over as a heel, and people are liking it. They're liking this attitude from Ziggler. It's either that or they just don't like Apollo Crews and Kalisto as much. Because you don't want your faces being cheered as they get pummeled by chairs, which is what happened when Dolph Ziggler ended up losing this match. He lost this handicap match, and it was always a lose-lose situation with this match. I mean, you wanted to put it's usually two heels taking on a face in a handicap match, so not really sure what would happen when you put two faces against a heel, and that was the dynamic of this match. And it never really seems like it was ever going to be that great of a decision, however they planned it out, because if you put Dolph Ziggler in there with two faces, and if he goes out there and he beats both of these faces in a handicap match, that's essentially, you know, making Apollo Crews and Kalisto look like chumps. And you don't want to do that, because Apollo Crews is definitely talented, Kalisto is definitely talented. So you don't want to do that, but you don't want Dolph Ziggler to come out looking weak either, because he's Dolph Ziggler. Former world champion Dolph Ziggler, I should add, so you don't want to do that. But he ended up taking the loss, but it was an acceptable loss. I mean, it was an acceptable loss. It was Apollo Crews dishing out a spinning powerbomb to Kalisto, no, to Dolph, I should say, and that ended up getting the win for them. As sorry, my trying to kill this penalty here. There we go. But yeah, anyway, so Dolph Ziggler, former world champion, a little bit more of an attitude, picking up a loss here against Apollo Crews and Kalisto. So what's in store for Dolph next is yet to be seen, as well as these other guys, as I'm in on a breakaway. Oh, and that's a goal. Very rarely do you see me score a goal, but there it is. Vigorous with the goal there. 2-2. Pirates tie it up with the Dragons. So anyways, on to the third match here in Elimination Chamber. And it was American Alpha defending the tag team titles in a 16 tag team turmoil match. It was the Ascension, the Vaudevillains, Breezango, the Usos, trying to remember the other team. Breezango, the Usos, and Rhino, former tag champions. And it was Heath Slater and Rhino taking on the Vaudevillains first, and they made rather quick work of them. Then came Breezango, they made quick work of them. And then the Usos came out, they beat Heath Slater and Rhino. So then out came American Alpha, and American Alpha picked up the victory over the Usos, so it was for sure going to be American Alpha taking on the Ascension in the final portion of the match. And the Usos, you know, being, you know, rather gangster and heelish like they're trying to do currently is, I'm going to pause right now. They put a hurting on American Alpha and, you know, tried to leave them out and dry. And I was in the live audience for this pay-per-view, so we're all thinking that Ascension's going to come out with a victory, because it's looking pretty bad for American Alpha at this point. But that would not be the case, as American Alpha would pick up the victory with a great amplitude that seemingly came out of nowhere, and they will retain the tag titles. So American Alpha still the tag team champions. And just from this past SmackDown, it looks like they're going to go into a program with the Usos. Usos came out on the Titantron with some pretty interesting lighting in the background. Looked more like something you would see in a 90s rap video or something like that. But it looked pretty cool, and it's going to be Usos and American Alpha probably going at it at WrestleMania. So we're going to see where that ends up. So going on to the next match, Nikki Bella took on Natalya in a match at Elimination Chamber. This was one of the matches that I wasn't looking super forward to, but it ended up being a pretty good match. But they ended up doing a double count out, and oh, almost getting something there. Ended up going to a double count out. And it was weird. We were a little disappointed because we thought this match was gonna, end somewhere. Because I figured this would be where the feud ends, because rumors are stating that Nikki Bella already has her WrestleMania plan set out for her. There's rumors going around that it's going to be her and her in real life boyfriend John Cena taking on the team of The Miz and Maurice, as that is not going to be a goal. It's rumored that Nikki Bella is looking to either take time off or retire from wrestling altogether. So ideally, she would probably want to do it with John Cena in her last match. So that's a match that's rumored to happen. So you would think that this pay-per-view match would seemingly be the end of this feud with Natalya, but that did not appear to be the case, as they did a double count out, and from SmackDown, it looks like they're going to do not a last man standing match, they're going to do a Falls Count Anywhere match on next week's episode of SmackDown, and hopefully that puts an end to this feud once and for all, so we can get WrestleMania plans up and moving. As I let in a goal there from Jaromir Jagr, who just turned 45 years old, I think today. But yep, Nikki Bella going to a double count out with Natalya. Randy Orton faced Luke Harper next. As we all know, Randy Orton, the winner of this year's Royal Rumble match, in what some would have called a surprise, although I got spoiled on it pretty early from my friend who always looks at the betting odds and whatnot. But yeah, Randy Orton taking on Luke Harper. Coming at odds, members of the Wyatt family. Luke Harper, it's very confusing as to whether or not he's still in the Wyatt family, because one week he's, pledging his allegiance to Bray, but just fighting with Orton, and then the next week he's, attacking Wyatt. So it's really interesting to see what's going on with the Wyatt family these days. So, as I almost let in a goal. No. Yep. No. Alright. But, yeah, definitely Randy Orton is the winner of the Royal Rumble, so it's pretty clear after this pay-per-view what's going to happen with WrestleMania. So Randy Orton ended up picking up the victory over Luke Harper with an RKO out of nowhere. It seemed like Luke Harper was doing well for himself in this match, and definitely put on a good showing. Luke Harper knows how to wrestle, so good for Luke Harper. I'm sure he'll find some way to be involved in this storyline even more, as next week on SmackDown is going to be Battle Royal for the #1 contendership of the WWE Championship, because on this past episode of SmackDown, Randy Orton stated that he doesn't want to fight Bray Wyatt, which it's hard to tell, but so it's going to be interesting to see where this goes on SmackDown. But Randy Orton picks up the victory over Luke Harper. And then, in what I thought was probably the biggest surprise of the night, Naomi faced Alexa Bliss for the SmackDown Women's Championship, and she actually won. It was a nice match. There was points in the match where it got a little sloppy, but it was a pretty good match. And wow, the reaction from people when Naomi won was actually pretty good. People weren't expecting her to win. I wasn't. And so the reaction that people got was pretty raw, and people liked it. People were happy for Naomi, and some "You Deserve It" chants broke out, and the story being that Naomi's going to go into WrestleMania in Orlando, her hometown. She's going to go into WrestleMania with the championship. And so Naomi is your new SmackDown Women's Championship. She is the new champion. It is the Elimination Chamber match. The match with the pay-per-view named after it. And all 6 members that were in this match did a really good job in this match. This was the match that I really wanted to see, and the match that everyone else came for. And it put on a really good show. Bray Wyatt, Baron Corbin, The Miz, Dean Ambrose, AJ Styles, and the current, at the time, world champion, John Cena, in the Elimination Chamber match. First, we had AJ Styles and John Cena starting out the match, and, the crowd absolutely buzzing. It's a wonder that they don't let these guys just go at it again at WrestleMania, because these guys have chemistry unlike I've seen in a long time. But yep, they got to go at it for about 5 minutes, and then in came Dean Ambrose, and Dean Ambrose came in like a raining fire until the next person came out, who was Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin worked everyone over pretty good, and you know, he got a couple of pretty good hits in, and he got a couple good hits in, but it ended up being Dean Ambrose pulling out the first elimination on Baron Corbin. So Baron Corbin was the first elimination in the Chamber match. So Baron Corbin took umbrage to that and ended up attacking Dean Ambrose as I lose that game 4-2. I let in way more goals than I actually scored. So to finish off, this Dean Ambrose obviously got attacked there by Baron Corbin after he eliminated him, and it was easy pickings for none other than The Miz, who ended up picking up the scraps and pinned Dean Ambrose rather easily. So all of a sudden it was down to just 4. So it was The Miz, AJ Styles, John Cena, and Bray Wyatt. And so then it ended up being John Cena pinning The Miz with AA that came seemingly out of nowhere. Miz was going for a crossbody, and John Cena just caught him. And so then after that, it was down to 3. And in what got a really good pop, probably the biggest pop of the night, was Bray Wyatt pinning John Cena to ensure everybody in the arena that there was going to be a new WWE champion after Elimination Chamber was over. So that went over pretty well. John Cena pinned after a Sister Abigail. And so then there were only 2, AJ Styles and Bray Wyatt. And it was back and forth for a little bit, but ultimately AJ Styles went for a phenomenal forearm. He got caught, hit with a Sister Abigail for the 1-2-3. And Bray Wyatt was the new WWE champion to end off what was a pretty good Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. And that's all I have to say about that. It was a really good show. I got to see it live, and I'm happy about that. My favorite match was obviously the Elimination Chamber, but my other favorite little moment was probably seeing Naomi win the title. I've never been the biggest fan of Naomi, but she's always been, you know, pretty good at what she does, and you know, she's obviously very happy to be in the situation that she's in. Ideally, you would have figured that the title would be around someone like Becky Lynch in this situation, but it's going to be interesting to see what they do moving forward for SmackDown Live exclusive pay-per-view Elimination Chamber. That was it. You watched me suck at NHL 17 some more, and thank you guys for watching. If you guys like this, leave it down in the comments below, like the video, be sure to comment and subscribe, and I will see you guys later.